Get back to business, the show all about small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. And joining us today is our returning guest, who's a successful entrepreneur and a trusted financial pillar in the Chicagoland community. And our guest is Anthony DeGrado, a State Farm insurance agent who has built his business on helping families and small business owners navigate risk and achieve financial security. It's a complex landscape out here, and Anthony brings a wealth of knowledge on protecting assets, managing exposure, and planning for the unexpected. Anthony, welcome back to Get Down to Business.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me back.
You bet. As our listeners know, because we've had you on a ton of times already, you work directly with individuals and businesses in the Chicagoland area. What, Anthony, is the single biggest insurance mistake or coverage gap that you see people making right now in our region?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get that question on a daily basis. When people are starting up their business, young entrepreneurs, people get very intimidated by insurance. When you're starting a business, there's a ton of different things, but insurance could be the most important thing you set up. So it is important to do it correctly, and you got to make sure. What always people get a little bit blindsided on is when you're starting your business, is there's a difference between business property and personal property. And they think, oh, my business, I'm working from home. I don't really need that coverage. Well, if you get paid for whatever it is that you're doing and you're using that equipment to get that paycheck, then that needs to be insured under your business. That's something where people have time in and time out. They'll have a claim and it is denied on their personal property for their home, but it's got to be covered under that business. And people forget that all the time.
Absolutely. And I want to zoom in a little bit even closer. Many of our listeners, most of our listeners, are small business owners. And what would you say is the one type of business insurance? I've heard of things like errors and omissions and maybe even cyber liability that sometimes folks overlook. And why is it now critical for growth?
Yeah, right now we're in such a crazy landscape in almost every aspect. Business is definitely no exception. When you're talking cyber liability, you mentioned that's a huge one right now. I mean, cyber theft, cyber ransom, that's big right now. So you need to make sure some business policies nowadays do include it. That is one you got to ask about. You might need a separate endorsement, just like your errors and omissions. Your errors and omissions, that is like the original cybersecurity, right? Before people went online and hijacked stuff. If you made a mistake, everyone makes mistakes. You're not perfect. If you make a mistake and you have errors and omissions, at least you could feel comfortable that your business is not going to be financially destroyed. You need that errors and omissions. You make that mistake, big or small, that will at least give you the protection. It's going to go on that policy. It's not going to drain your assets. Those are huge ones to have. Nowadays, I think liability falls right into that concept. People are getting sued left and right. If you're a business owner, I hate to say it, but I feel like you're the target of all the billboard attorneys out there. So it's important to have high liability limits, maybe even an umbrella. Depending on what you're doing, you're going to need those liability limits because $1 million isn't what it used to be. And I'll tell you right now, that's a bullseye when those billboard attorneys out there see that you're a business owner. You're automatically the wealthiest guy on the street, and they're going to come after you. So you got to be protected.
Yeah. And Anthony, one of the things that I find so awesome about you, and the reason I love to bring you on so often, is that it's a competitive market. And let's call it what it is. There's a lot of insurance agents that are out there, but how do you, as a State Farm agent, build and maintain the trust and community connection that keeps clients coming back year after year to your agency?
Yeah, it's always difficult. Any industry is competitive. Insurance can be extremely competitive. You could have a captive agent like myself. I could only sell State Farm products, but now I have to go against brokers that could sell hundreds of different companies. So it gets very difficult, and it's very hard when people are just looking at a price of something. But you got to remember when you're doing insurance, you need that peace of mind. And if you're dealing with someone who can't talk to you like a person, they're looking at you like a number, then you're just not in the right space. You got to be able to reach out to someone. We're always very happy to be open line of communication. We're answering questions, educating. We're doing more than just giving you what you quote unquote need for your business. We need to educate you, find out what is going to be most important, find out what you're doing, get you covered correctly so when there is a claim, it's going to be covered the way it's supposed to be. When we have claims, we walk our customers through it. Right now, the claim landscape is a total mess. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Every company in insurance right now is having a hard time paying out these claims. So if you don't have somebody who's doing this on a day in and a day out and actually valuing you and your business, then you're not in the right spot. And we take the extra time to make sure that we can go that extra mile. We know what we're talking about it. We do it every single day. So you take care of your business and we'll take care of your insurance anytime.
I've been chatting with Anthony DeGrado, State Farm Insurance, and really grateful for the trust that you provide to all of our entrepreneur listeners, small business owners. I want to make sure our listeners can get in touch with you. How can they reach you and your team?
Yeah, give us a call. Our office is right in Roselle. Our phone number is 847-895-1500. Shoot me an email at anthony@degradosf.com. That's Anthony at DEGRADOSF.com.
Fantastic. Anthony DeGrado, State Farm Insurance. Really appreciate you coming back on, and we'll definitely have you back on before the end of the calendar year. You always provide such great tips, advice, and information. So critical for a small business audience. We've got to squeeze in a quick break here on the show, all about small business jobs and entrepreneurship. We'll be right back.